about this red heifer, Winnie the Moo. Okay. A lot of people in this chat have asked me about this conspiracy. I'm not super familiar with it personally, but it's time. It's time that we look into it. What these red cows from Texas have to do with war and peace in the Middle East. Jerusalem. When Hamas spokesman Abu Ubaidah began a speech marking the 100th day of the war in Gaza, one confounding yet eye-opening proclamation escaped the headlines. Listing the motives of the Palestinian militant group's October 7 massacre, he accused Jews of bringing red cows to the Holy Land. The cows he was talking about are red heifers, which now graze at a secure, undisclosed location in the Israeli-occupied West Bank. Some Jews and Christians believe they are key to rebuilding the Jewish temple that once stood in Jerusalem and to beckoning the Messiah. To understand, you have to look back at almost 2,000 years in the tumultuous history of the Middle East. When the ancient Romans destroyed the last temple in Jerusalem, to rebuild it, fervent believers point to the Bible's book of Numbers, which commands the Israelites to offer a red heifer without defect or blemish, and that has never been under a yoke. Only with that offering, they insist, can the temple rise again. It is fucking nutty. From Texas to the West Bank, instrumental in bringing the heifers to the Holy Land was Yitzhak Mamo of Uvnei, Jerusalem, a group committed to seeing a new temple built on Jerusalem's old city. You can check to see if they have any white or black hairs, he told CBS News, explaining that any hair that isn't red would disqualify the cows from fulfilling their prophesied role. Finding the red heifers took years. The quest led Mamo, not the Jewish breeders, but the Christian ranchers thousands of miles away. After a long search, we found them in Texas, he said. Texas Red Angus. To bypass strict laws in place at the time that banned the export of U.S. cattle to Israel, the red heifers were classified as pets, Mamo said with a laugh. But to those following biblical commandments, the cows are no laughing matter, he added, stressing that this was no publicity stunt. Harry Potter is a good story. The Bible is not a story, he said. The Bible is a way of God to lead us. But while they're classed as pets, there are no plans to let the red heifers live out long, happy lives. A massive white altar awaits where they are to be burned on a plot of land overlooking the Mount of Olives in Jerusalem. Mamo said the ceremony must be performed looking directly into where the ancient Second Temple stood until it was destroyed by the Romans in the year 70. What Mamo didn't mention is that what stands in the temple's place now, the Dome of the Rock and Al-Aqsa Mosque, which are among the holiest sites in Islam. Yeah, I know. This is the red heifer, by the way. And I'm noticing that there is not a single white nor black hair on this beautiful baby. Here is a Hamas militant trying to single-handedly capture a red heifer with his bare hands. In order to stop Israel from building the temple.
What if I told you that the world is ending and it's all because of a red cow? What? Sounds crazy, but stay with me because as unusual
What are these fucking jump cuts, bro? This is so TikTok adjacent. Okay.
as this sounds, this isn't sensationalism or clickbait. You see, on January 14th, 100 days into the war, Hamas spokesman Abu Ubaidah released a statement reiterating the motives for the October 7th attack against the state of Israel. During his speech, he cited the arrival of the red heifers into occupied Palestine and described it as a provocation, which seems like a totally random point, especially against the backdrop of the other justifications for the October 7th attack, such as the ongoing occupation, the expansion of illegal settlements on stolen Palestinian land, the thousands of Palestinian hostages illegally held in Israeli prisons, the blockade and siege of Gaza, and the normalization deals between Israel and the Arab states. But upon closer examination, the arrival of the red heifers is...
I'm confused. He's got bisexual lighting. Pretty sure that's not true, right? What do you mean? Like, as in the conspiracy? Yeah, no, I don't think that when they sacrifice red heifers in Jerusalem, that the Messiah will come back and the rapture will happen. Yes, I don't believe that, chatter. What would lead you to make me feel like, what would lead you to believe that I think that? I am not a believer in the end times rapture conspiracy. What will they say when nothing happens? Bro, what do you mean? When have cults ever stopped? If anything, they literally reaffirm their commitment in times like that.
Is a significant event, not only for the people of Israel and Palestine, but for the entire world. You see, the red heifer plays a central role in a prophecy of epic magnitude. It isn't just a cow, it's a
I'm sorry, but bad Photoshop like this with a Star of David on it immediately gives me 4chan vibes, okay? Not saying that these guys are, but it is funny that like the only ever time I see bad Photoshop like this with a Star of David on it is when it's like some fucking groiper posting memes.
It isn't just a cow, it's a
Just needed the Fed in the background, yeah.
In what many around the world perceive to be the end of times. By the end of this video, you will understand how the religious beliefs of the world's most influential religions regarding the final destiny of mankind, known as eschatology, are converging onto a single point, a single event that could have ramifications so great that it brings about the end of the world as we know it. And it all starts with a red cow. Now, before we continue, I need you to understand something. It doesn't matter who you are or what you believe. Whether you're Muslim, Christian, Jewish, agnostic, atheist, these ideas are real to the people and influential groups acting upon them. These ideas can thus affect you, regardless of your personal beliefs, because their actions could trigger catastrophic events for not just the Middle East, but for the whole world. Let's start off with a brief introduction. There are many who insist that the Palestinian Israeli...
Oh my God. Little bro went back to fucking 1948, dude. That's crazy. He's like, my man is fucking splitting atoms over here, dude. He's like, the world was a gas cloud, okay?
The conflict isn't a religious one, that it's a geopolitical one, and a story of settler colonialism. While this is true, the religious undertones at play cannot be denied. We all know that Jerusalem is one of the holiest cities in the entire world, revered by the three Abrahamic faiths, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And at the very heart of Jerusalem... Yes,
by the way, of course they had to get to the U.S. to get to the cow. The U.S.'s hamburger champion is just as you said, prophecy. I stand before you, vindicated by history. Once again, by the way, I told you this, #1 burgers, dude. Nobody comes near our burgers, okay? As much as I love Wagyu, as much as I love Japanese cows, okay? America consistently is #1 on burgers, okay?
Very important site, the Al-Aqsa Masjid compound. And at the center of the compound is the Golden Dome of the Rock. To Muslims, the Al-Aqsa compound is the third holiest site in Islam. To Jews, it's believed to be the site of the Temple Mount, where the first and second temples once stood. The first temple was built by the prophet king Solomon, destroyed by the Babylonians when Nebuchadnezzar conquered Jerusalem, rebuilt as the second temple by King Herod, and destroyed again by the Romans when they conquered Jerusalem in the 1st century. This temple is central to the Jewish faith, and there is debate within Judaism over how and when the temple will be rebuilt. To Jews, this isn't just wishful thinking, it's a prophecy. The construction of the temple and the arrival of their Messiah is an event that will come to pass and vindicate the Jewish faith. Religious Jews long to reestablish not only...
You need more revisionist history to align with your echo-chambered morons? You need the Arabic... Wait, what? Aren't you privileged Turk? Groypers aren't Jewish, Lamau. You got to be dense. Lamau, when are you going to debate your beliefs, or do you actually know yourself? They're too faulty. You need the Arabic subtitles to feel in tune. That said nothing, Lamau. You need more revisionist history to align with your echo-chambered morons, Lamau. Bro, it doesn't seem like you're laughing your ass off. I'm gonna keep it $150 with you. It doesn't seem like you're Lamauing. It seems like you're seething, as a matter of fact. I am? Yeah, no. You keep saying Lamau, but you're like... We'll keep this guy on the back burner. He's going to have some really funny takes eventually.
Their historic kingdom, but also their relationship with God. It is believed that before the first temple was conquered and destroyed, the spirit of Hashem, God, abandoned the temple. So in a way, the relationship of the Jewish people to God has been severed and cannot be fully restored until the temple is reconstructed. For God's promise to the Jews to be confirmed, the temple must be rebuilt and the Messiah must appear. For thousands of years, this was completely out of reach until Israel reconquered Jerusalem from the Arabs in 1967.
When Commander Gore declared that the Temple Mount was back in Jewish hands, it rekindled hope for a long-awaited Third Temple.
The Six-Day War was a miracle of biblical proportion.
Psycho-Christians trying to get the Jews genocided? I mean, that. But also, you have to remember, like, it's hogs of every fucking variety. It's perfect. Hey. Down. What's wrong? Are you bored? Is that what it is? She bored. She's like, come on. Don't even wag your tail at me like that. Oh my God. Anyway, am I crazy? Would this be the exact same vibes if you inserted Yakubian names into it? Yes. It's hogs across the board, baby. You got like a select few group of religious nutters on the Jewish side joining fucking hands with a select few group of nutters on the Christian side. I guess the Christian ones like kind of outnumber everyone else in this equation though, because like there are a lot more of these religious nutters on the ones that like legitimately believe that, you know, all of this stuff needs to happen so that the prophecy can happen and then Jesus Christ can come back to earth and in Megiddo fight the devil, duke it out, you know, apocalyptic prophecy and all. There are so many of them in America, dude. And they're like normal people too. It's kind of scary to think about. Anyway, let's continue.
And was a cataclysmic opening of a new era for Israel and for the whole world.
This was seen by some as a divinely ordained event and a necessary step towards the re-establishment of the Holy Temple. But there's a problem, a massive problem. The Jews believe this temple must be rebuilt on Temple Mount, meaning the Al-Aqsa compound, the Islamic holy site, must be destroyed. And so despite controlling Jerusalem for the last 60 plus years, Israel has been quiet about any intentions to rebuild the temple, as this would be seen as a major provocation and incite a war between Israel and the Muslim world. But working in the background are groups dedicated to the destruction of Al-Aqsa and the reconstruction of the temple. One such group, the Temple Institute, has worked diligently for years, raising money and awareness, and building relationships with powerful forces both in Israel and around the world to facilitate the construction of the Third Temple. And after decades of occupation and growing disinterest in the cause of the Palestinian people, their calls for the reconstruction of the temple have grown louder and louder.
Talk of rebuilding the temple is no longer considered a fringe idea.
Today, there is a lobby in the Knesset of how many members of Knesset that are constantly speaking about Jewish rights to pray on the Temple Mount. There are members of Knesset that actually talk about the rebuilding of the Holy Temple. Do you understand that 20 years ago, these people wouldn't have been given a moment on prime time television in Israel?
Bro, don't flex, dude. Oh no. He's not wrong. It's fucking terrifying.
To say these things, they would have been
he's celebrating it on CBN, by the way.
Laughed out.
So a few
Christian
years ago,
Broadcast Network.
this was considered fringe.
Zealots, lunatics, peculiar. Today it's mainstream.
And this group is
My man found the fucking red heifer right here. Is that guy American? Yes, both of those guys are, I think, American.
Lunatics, peculiar. Today it's mainstream.
And this group is also supported by powerful evangelical Christians in the West. For evangelicals, they view the construction of the temple as a necessary precursor to the return of Christ. It's a bit of an unholy alliance because the Jews believe that all Gentiles, aka non-Jews, will serve the Jews when the Messiah returns, while the evangelicals believe that Christ will return and either convert or kill the Jews. Bit of an awkward relationship. The means to get there are the same for both groups, however. Al-Aqsa.
It is weird as fuck because yes, the hogs on both sides do think they are going to dominate everyone else on the other side. That's why I always say it's like a death cult. It's like a suicide pact they got going on. My cousin just came in. It's crazy, dude.
Must be destroyed, and the temple must be rebuilt. And this puts them at odds with the Muslim world, primarily the Palestinians, who view themselves as the defenders and custodians of the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Okay, so we have historical context now, but what does this all have to do with cows? Well, according to Jewish theology, the temple cannot be reconstructed until the Jews of Israel are purified, and the process of purification requires the sacrifice of a rare type of cow.
It says that God spoke to Moses and Aaron saying, "This is the ritual law that God has commanded, instruct the children of Israel to bring you a red cow without blemish, in which there is no defect, and on which no yoke has been laid." So it says that we're supposed to take a perfectly red cow with no white hairs or dark hairs at all, and a cow that no yoke has ever been on. So as a result, it's very, very rare to find a baby cow that is completely red.
It's basically the bougiest cow of all time. This kind of red heifer has been incredibly difficult to find. Even with genetic modification and breeding, finding the perfect red heifer domestically in
The one thing that's holding us back, boys. It's literally Winnie the Moo, by the way. I checked. I checked. Winnie the Moo at Alvea Sanctuary is the cow. Oh my God.
Israel has been near impossible, but in 2022, 5 of these perfect red heifers were discovered on a ranch in Texas. The Temple Institute in Jerusalem spent over $500,000 to airlift these red heifers to Israel, where they were placed on a secretive farm for protecting and grooming. Now, they were too young to sacrifice in 2022. Per the rules of their theology, the Jews cannot sacrifice these heifers and purify the Jews of Israel until they reach a certain age.
The book of Numbers explains that ashes of the red heifer are used to purify priests for their service in the temple. These red heifers are now between 1.5 to 2 years old. To replicate the ceremony mentioned in the Bible, they need to be at least 3 years old.
In April of this year, these heifers will be of age, and the sacrifice can commence. To prepare for this, the Temple Institute and other groups have been making all sorts of preparations. Firstly, the sacrifice must be made by the perfect priest, not only trained in the process of sacrifice, but also with a direct bloodline to the prophet Aaron, the brother of the prophet Moses. The sacrifice must also be made east of the Temple Mount, around the Mount of Olives, where the priests can be within sight of the compound itself. And this land has already been purchased.
According to those working on the project, the ceremony of the red heifer needs to be performed on the Mount of Olives and in a place that would have looked directly into where the temple stood.
Dude, it's so sick. It's like, it is very anime, okay? I mean, it's maddening when you think about the actual implications, like, of the fact that people are just straight up hallucinating. Like a not insignificant amount of people are hallucinating, and now we have to fucking deal with the outcome. Ay, ay, ay. It's just so fucking annoying, dude. I hate this. I feel like I always feel like we are just held captive, held hostage by the sickest fucking freak perverts. Okay? The very notion. Obviously, all of this like religious stuff on top of everything that's going on is simply just to further galvanize the public. And I would go so far as to say that this shit is infinitely more impactful for Christians, evangelical Zionists specifically, than it is for Jews, especially Jews in Israel too. I'm pretty sure when you look at it, like I don't think you would have a much harder time finding a genuine political support for this kind of behavior in Israel than you do in America. This is partially the reason why American Christian Zionists are the largest supporters of not only Israel, but specifically the occupation of the West Bank. It's very annoying.
The land I'm standing on, bought 12 years ago, fits both of those standards.
It's had to be exactly at the front, a place that the priest that made this ceremony can see the Holy of the Holy Place.
Rabbi Yitzhak Mamo owns the
Mamo!
land here on the Mount of Olives.
And we hope that in a year and a half from today, we can make here in this area the ceremony of the red heifer. That actually will be the first step to the temple.
Mamo says the ceremony needs priests who have not been defiled by touching anything dead.
The Temple Institute actually have 9.
You can't argue with these people. My mother is one. Even when you spell it out for them, the dogmatism is too deep. Even when I'm like, you donate 25% of your retirement to cause the end of the world, she just rationalizes it away. Yeah, so many. That is the greatest, dude, the greatest secret, like unironic conspiratorial secret, is not that the Jews control the world or whatever the fuck. It's the fact that we consistently in America think it's Jews that have any say in this process across the board. And it's not simply like, as far as religious justifications goes, nobody gives a fuck about Jewish people, okay? Americans don't give a fuck about Judaism. The fact that these like 4chan groypers are constantly fucking talking about like, oh yeah, look at the Torah, look at the fucking Talmud. Ooh, they're fucking sacrificing children. Like, they are literally so fucking dumb. It is straight up evangelical Protestants who don't do it in secret either. They do it openly. It is not a secret. It's so not a secret that fucking Gilad Erdan went to John Hagee's church in the middle of October. Like, why the fuck did the UN envoy to Israel fly in between fucking putting the Star of David on his chest to be like, UN is Hamas? Why did he fucking fly to Dallas, Texas, to a goddamn mega church to be like, this is a religious war and we are doing the religious war for you? Why? Why? Because that is the most rabid, most fanatical group of support that Israel could ever get. And it's so funny that it's like something that even a very well-read anti-Zionist Canadian Jew like David Maklovich, okay, Dave 1 of Chromeo, didn't know about. Like, think about that. He's so fucking well-read. He's so well-read on this issue. His whole life, he's like defended Palestinians. Comes from an academic family. Was a college professor. And even he didn't fucking know about it. When I talk about it here, when I talk about it on those terms, people always like go, what the fuck do you mean American Christians are responsible for Israel and like what Israel gets to do and why there's so much fucking unconditional support, at least amongst the population, for Israel's atrocious actions? Beyond the obvious material reasons, beyond the obvious reasons of imperialism, the way to prop up support on the ground, the way to propagandize support for Israel is by telling every fucking Christian that at the top of the hour there's a 3-minute ad break and it's coming and it's kind of like a rapture. where all of those who are subscribed will be propped up into the heavens because they've already subscribed. They won't see the 3-minute ad break. And the rest will burn in eternal damnation. Those who are unsubscribed at the top of the hour will see a 3-minute ad break. Now, of course, if you no longer want to see those ads, you can subscribe. You can convert to evangelical Christianity. Okay? Born again. Baptize yourselves by subscribing for $5 or free at the top of the hour. Or by getting gifted a sub by those like Black Kakarot. Black Kakarot, sorry, not Kakarot. My red heifer is uncomfy. That's right. Here's a 3-minute ad break now. Kage Kam, thank you for the 5 tier 1 gifted subs as well. Saving 5 of those destined for eternal damnation from the fires that would have bound their lives in existence. Florida dropout and Amelia O face. Thank you for the 5 individual gifted subs. Let's continue.
Pure priest, and they are pure, and they are waiting. So we have the priest, we have the red heifer, we have the land, and we have everything ready. We just need to wait another 1.5 years.
The Temple Institute is so serious about these preparations that they have already used diamond cutting tools to form the massive stones that will be used for construction of the new temple. As per Jewish creed, the stones cannot be carved with metal tools. And they have even prepared the ornaments that will be placed inside the temple once it's rebuilt. And there are many other specific requirements for the temple's construction that have been undertaken. Okay, so now you should understand why Abu Ubaidah made it a point to mention the arrival of the red heifers. To you and I, it may seem like a superstitious ritual with no bearing on the situation, but as I have already laid out, it is the first major step in a series of steps that will facilitate the destruction of the Al-Aqsa compound. And this is what will trigger a catastrophic showdown between civilizations. Once the heifer is sacrificed, it will be burned and its ashes will be mixed with water, which will be used to purify the Jews of Israel, who will then be allowed to construct the temple, with the ornaments and construction materials already prepared in accordance with Jewish law. This process will be rather quick. Another thing to keep in mind is the archaeological excavation that has been taking place underneath.
I'm sorry, okay. This seems like a fun way to cover this, but like, I don't know what it is. And I think, I think I've seen some videos from these guys before, but there's just something about the tone that like, something about the tone that they're taking in the video that like rubs me the wrong way. I can't be the only one who feels this way, right? Where like they almost are covering this as though it's like real. You know what I mean? Like, sure, it's fucking spooky. I don't know if it's a TikTok accent or whatever, but like, I needed to at some point be like, hey, this is fucking bullshit, by the way. Like, this is insane. Like, we need to just like take a deep breath here and acknowledge how fucking stupid this is. You know what I mean? I don't know what it is. I know he like already said that it's like superstition and it's like silly, but blah, blah, blah. But like, it does somehow. What? Okay. What do you want? What do you want? Are you bored? Are you that bored? You had to get out. You had to escape. It's crazy. My red heifer is acting out.
The Al-Aqsa compound, The Israelis claim it's for archaeological purposes, but they have never allowed Palestinians to participate or even observe this process. Many believe that this excavation is part of a dangerous agenda to weaken the foundations of the Al-Aqsa Mosque and bring about its collapse. There are reports of growing cracks in the foundation walls and ceilings of the mosque itself. Any attempt to repair them has been ignored and rejected by the Israeli government. In 2023, these excavations reached their most extreme point, with unprecedented levels of digging taking place underneath the compound. And in May of 2023, just a year ago, Netanyahu's cabinet held a meeting underneath Al-Aqsa. If you still aren't convinced of the intent of the Temple Institute to destroy the mosque, just take a look at this purpose statement on their website. In it, they detail that the Temple Mount rightfully belongs to the Jews, that the Palestinians are the modern people of Amalek, a tribe which the Jews destroyed thousands of years ago. This is pretty fucking crazy, right? This isn't just the mission of some NGO operating in Israel. It's an entire movement picking up steam that is pervasive in Israeli society. The Temple Institute has given custom-made battle horns used during the war with the Amaleks to the IDF so that they can blow them in the Gaza Strip. And soldiers can be seen erecting signs, flags, and graffiti on homes in the Gaza Strip, announcing the coming of the temple and the destruction of the mosque. The writing is literally on the wall.
Most Christians, I think, don't think about the third temple, but those who do believe that it will be built before Jesus returns and that the Antichrist will take over that third temple during the tribulation and try to rule the world from there. Could it happen in our lifetime? That, to me, is intriguing. I think we don't know.
On the channel, but maybe hasn't been clipped enough to know you shouldn't go that long without giving critical commentary law. I do think people don't do enough critical thinking on their own. The videos like this may inadvertently have the opposite effect. No, it's just like, I just find it really fucking strange the way they're covering it, almost like lends credence to the conspiracy not being a conspiracy but real. I don't think he believes that the conspiracy is real, but he's like, it's almost like I think he's, one, greatly overemphasizing the impact that this kind of conspiracy has on both Jewish culture and Israeli society in general. Like, I think as far as I have read into it a little bit, it does seem to me like the attitude that many in Israel have towards these guys is that they're just like fucking nut jobs, right? And for a very long time, as they openly showed in the video, without mentioning it, but definitely showed in the video, that these guys were literally cast aside. They were like zealots, right? Now, I guess like a comparison I would make would be to like post 9/11 Americans, right? We looked at a lot of those like fucking right-wing Christian freaks, but we kind of aligned with them on our endless conquest of killing anything that was even remotely Muslim. So I think now it's just like, yeah, those guys are fucking weirdos, but like, you know, they're on our side type shit. I don't think people understand, like, Jews as a whole are so much less religious than fucking Christians are in America. It's like very weird that, like, that's why a lot of these conspiracies, in my opinion, about like Judaism or like the Talmud is so stupid. Have you never met a Jew? No, they aren't. Yeah, they 100% are. No, dude. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day because there are plenty who are Zionist, okay? And not for like Jewish reasons. I love people being like, you said most religious, you meant to say least. Oh, wait, did I say most religious? Sorry. I meant Jewish people are less religious as a whole than Christians are, and they're more religious. The more religious Jews have less power overall than the most hyper fixated Christians in America. Shit will be clipped like crazy. Let's go. Wait, what did I say? I know what you mean about this video. It feels like the type of video where people are going to start thinking that Jews are really up to some shady shit. You said most unreligious the first time, by the way? Oh, okay. So I was right. Yeah, okay. I didn't misspeak at all. I'm pretty sure I said it. Okay, if I said unreligious, that's what I meant. But yeah. I don't think it's like I don't think the religious reasons. It's funny because like it's been that way since the inception of Israel. Theodore Herzl is secular. The justifications for Israel being where it is now was so that like the ultra religious Jews that believed in Jews being nationless until the Messiah would at least be somewhat on board. At least they could pick some of those guys on for the cause at a time when it was like not as popular. Zionism wasn't as popular amongst Jews and actually very unpopular in general. Like, none of these motherfuckers give a shit about Judaism, bro. Most of these guys don't care. Most Zionists are not like, oh, yeah, we're doing it because of religious reasons. Like, they don't give a shit. It's kind of stupid.
But there are some Jews who are really making, as you're reporting on, preparations to get ready for that moment, and that's something to watch closely.
To many, this isn't just a war between a rebel group and an occupier. It's a war of conquest by religious zealots in the same vein as the Crusaders and ISIS. And it's all coming to a head. Hamas felt so strongly about this provocation that they cited it as a motive for October 7th.
نذكر بعدوان بلغ أقصى مداه على مسرانا وأقصانا وبدأ تقسيمه الزماني والمكاني فعلا وأحضرت البقرات الحمر تطبيقا لخرافة دينية مقيتة مصممة للعدوان على مشاعر أمة كاملة.
It wasn't only a desperate plea to the world to pay attention to the plight of the Palestinian people. It was a warning to the entire Muslim world that one of their holiest sites is under threat of destruction because they see the writing on the wall. They see the calls from organizations like the Temple Institute and the people who fund them. They see the policies being enacted by the violent and religiously extremist Israeli government, working hand in hand with evangelical Christian extremists. They see the indoctrination of their children, the future generation, where they make...
Yes, dude, you're right. Council communists are correct. People who are oppressed by colonialist movements should just fucking die because no war but class war. Shut the fuck up. Jesus Christ, dude. So fucking annoying. God damn it, I fucking despise the left so much to my very bone, okay? Oh my God! One day, bro, magically, bro, it's gonna happen, bro, I promise. You're no different than the fucking dudes who think that the red heifer is gonna be sacrificed and the Messiah is gonna come back, but for fucking dialectical materialism somehow. I don't know how. Fuck! I try my very best not to shit on like different subsects of the left here, but sometimes you make it so impossible. Yeah, dude, you know who's actually engaging in bourgeois movements? The Palestinian National Liberation Front. Like, what a fucking mentally unsound take, bro. How could you fucking write those words and like type enter and not feel deep shame in your soul? It's insane, dude. No, they're not a troll. They're just a fucking, they're left com. So they're just basically, in the real world, they are regarded as like insane individuals.
Intent clear to destroy the mosque and replace it with the third temple. They understand that these people are working towards their prophesied end times. And they understand that these extremist Jews and evangelicals believe that the key event to triggering this violence, destruction, and chaos is the construction of the third temple. And the construction of this temple doesn't begin until the red heifers are slaughtered, sacrificed, and burned on the Mount of Olives in East Jerusalem. Now, if you think all of this is nonsense, that it doesn't matter, well, it does. And this kind of religious extremism should be worrying, because just imagine what the destruction of the Al-Aqsa Mosque would do to a world currently reeling from the conflict in Ukraine, the genocide in Gaza, the Houthis' blockade of the Red Sea, and the Iranian proxy skirmishes with the United States. Such an event would have the potential to kickstart not just a wider regional war in the Middle East. At best, it would result in global energy and economic crisis, and at worst, nuclear world war. So I don't know about you, but I'm kind of hoping these red heifers grow a few strands of white hairs to invalidate them for the sacrifice, and that someone starts reining in these Israeli and evangelical extremists the same way they reeled in ISIS, because at least ISIS didn't have nukes. Now, if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to our channel, and don't—
Yeah, bro, this is like, my take ultimately is that it's greatly overstating, in my opinion. It's greatly overstating, in my honest opinion, how important this theory is to Jewish people and to people in Israel overall. And that it's infinitely more important for Christians than it is for Jews. Okay? And I'm not even talking about like Zionist Jews, anti-Zionist Jews. I'm talking just like in general to Judaism. It's ridiculous. Most Jewish people in Israel look at those guys as though they are smelly, weird losers. Okay? And this doesn't mean that like those people in Israel are not in support of completely fucking reducing Gaza into rubble. They certainly are. It's just that those guys don't have as much power, as much political power as like our religious nutters do in America. The inception of the Israeli state is already technically an irreligious act against the messianic conspiracies. It is literally against Judaism. It is against the Torah. So even if you were like super fucking religious, the Neturei Karta and other Orthodox factions that are anti-Zionist, also somewhat conditionally, but anti-Zionist regardless, are more in line with the religious scripture, the religious text, than these guys are, because they're literally sitting on top of Israel. I don't know. I think the greatest responsibility, once again, is obviously the Israeli state, Zionism, which is ultimately a secular concept and has very little to do with Judaism in general. And then American State Department interests, obviously, but also American Christians, if we're going to talk about